Everyone has been in the library, but have you ever wondered what the history of the Park Ridge Public Library is? Today we are investigating the library from when it was formed to the present day to see how our library became the amazing library we have today.
Park Ridge Public Library was first commissioned in 1909 by the Civics Committee of Park Ridge. They raised money from lots of donors and the first library board. The library board got to work in 1912 and they appointed an architect to start designing the library. The library had its grand opening on December 6, 1913. During the Great Depression, the basement became the children's room and the library hired more people. In the 1950s, with more people moving to Park Ridge, the library board promoted the idea of a new, bigger building. The idea was great and a new architect was brought in to design and build the new building. Finally, in 1982, the library switched to a digital system like the one we use today. Then, they added the drive-by drop-off box so people can return books without going inside the library. This is just some of the library's amazing and long history. We can't wait to see what it has in store for us in the future.
Now that we know a little bit about the history of the library, we interviewed Ms. Bertucci to learn a little bit more.
Sure, my name is Joanna. My last name is Bertucci. Okay. So my role at the library, I am the library director, and I have been on staff here since June of 2021, so I'm coming up on my second anniversary. The Park Ridge Public Library began actually across the street at the building at the corner of Touhy and Prospect. It's a Carnegie library building. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Andrew Carnegie, one of his big goals was to give communities funds to build libraries. In the early 1910s, the Women's Club of Park Ridge approached the Carnegie Foundation to get funds to build a library here in Park Ridge. And on December 6, 1913, the first Park Ridge Library opened, and the address is 1 Northwest Highway. It's just across the street. So the library was there until about the 50s. And at that time, the space had grown too small. There were a couple of branch libraries in South Park, kind of along Devon Avenue, and the space just wasn't enough. The town was growing. People needed more from their library, so the Board of Trustees issued a referendum, and the voters voted to approve funds to build a new library. So the building that we are currently in now, actually this half was added on later, but the half closer to Touhy Avenue, that's the original library building, and that was constructed in 1956-57. So then the library was here late 50s, 60s, and then again in the 70s, population increases in town and there's more space needed for library collections. So in 1975, another bond referendum passed for $1.1 million, and that addition, this is the part that we're in right now, so everything, kind of on this parking lot side was added to the building, and this is the framework that we operate in today. Yeah, so libraries are always changing. I think probably the biggest change for us was the evolution of the internet. Prior to the internet, we had card catalogs. Everything was done manually. Records were kept by hand. And then in the 80s, we come to automation. So library catalogs come online. So really, the internet changed the whole game for libraries. So one project we are going to undertake in the fall is we're going to, one of our restrooms in our children's room is going to be converted to a low sensory room. So that'll be a space to serve patrons on the autism spectrum, just a quieter space in the library. And we're also going to renovate our washrooms in that space, and we're going to make them ADA accessible, which is really important so that they're easy to use for all members of the community. So this is a book sorter. It uses RFID technology. So RFID is an acronym for radio frequency identification. So all of our materials, after they're processed, they get a barcode, a traditional barcode like most library books have, but our library books also get, and CDs and DVDs, also get one of these radio frequency tags. The tags are programmed so that when patrons return materials through the sorter or through this staff portal here, the machine reads the tag, sends it down the conveyor, and tells it which bin to go into for shelving. So this is great because before, someone would have to stand at a desk, manually scan every book and sort them on carts for reshelving. So now what happens is the sorter does all of that work, and then staff retrieve the materials from the bins, put them on carts, alphabetize them, and sort them. So not all libraries have this technology. We're really fortunate that we do, because it frees up staff time to be doing other things and working with patrons. We do also have checkout stations in the lobby for people to check out their books, and that's all integrated to this system. The library, over 100 years old. These are in our collection. So you can see November 6, 1912 is the date. Park Ridge Public Library. So you can see elevations.
After interviewing Ms. Bertucci, we wanted to know what students know about the library and what misconceptions they had.
We sent out a Google form asking people what they knew about the Park Ridge Public Library, and here's what we got. 50% of people knew that the first library was not next to the Pickwick. 65.2% of people knew that the new library building was built on top of a burnt school. 31.9% of people knew that Andrew Carnegie helped build the first Park Ridge Library. 27.1% of people knew that the first library opened in 1913. 21.7% of people knew that construction began on the new library in 1956. And 11.6% of people knew that the library stopped using a card catalog in 1993.
After researching the library, interviewing Ms. Bertucci, and asking students some questions, we've learned a lot about how technology in the community impacted the history of the library. We hope that you are just excited as we are for what the future of the library will be.